Now, there are a couple of things happening in the West that can still, one thing which we discussed before, pushing austerity on Ukraine could lead to blowing all of this up. Because if the Europeans and the IMF push austerity through Ukraine, the main reward for them leaning towards Europe and maintaining some type of national cohesion and working together to create more genuine political autonomy will be a punishment and reduction in living standards, which would be horrific. So austerity is the number one strategic economic threat emanating from that sphere. Now in the West, and I just think that this bears repeating, Li Fang had a piece a couple of weeks ago about all of the energy interests who have jumped on the Crimea issue. This has been a large part of the response in Washington, particularly on the right. So there has been the, beat our chests. We want another Cold War. We want belligerence with Russia. Now, that's completely demented. I say that as I've said, I don't have any illusions about what Russia's up to, and there are some real challenges that what they're doing poses. But the notion that you want another Cold War, that you want to act belligerently and hostilely to Russia is insane. And now all of that chest beating is combined substantively with people and interests just advocating for things like constructing the Keystone Pipeline and for pushing expansion of the liquefied natural gas market, as an example, which would either be complete non sequiturs as far as the Russian situation goes, or in some specific cases actually help the energy oligarchs who, in tandem with Exxon and other Western interests, enrich themselves quite well and support the present Russian government. So here are a couple of examples that Li Fang identified. He said, a small group of politicians and pundits with close ties to the fossil fuel industry are using the crisis in Crimea to demand that the United States promote natural gas exports as a quick fix for the volatile situation. But such a solution, experts say, would cost billions of dollars, require years of development, and would not significantly impact the international price or Russia's role as a major supplier for the region. Because, again, Russia's prime influence is through Europe, and Europe has its own energy strategy that it has to figure out with regard to Russia. Keystone has nothing to do with it. And he lists a number of examples of lobbyists and pundits coming out and advocating for energy projects that have no bearing on this and using Ukraine and Crimea and Russia as the excuse for these garbage projects. But I just want to highlight one because this is just like particularly disgusting and delicious right before we wrap up. So one specific project that has been advocated for, and also I should say the Coke Industries is very heavily lobbying for certain projects. But let's look at this specific one with the National Association of Manufacturers, who have opposed tough sanctions on Russia. Instead, the NAM has used the crisis in Ukraine to urge a move that would, quote, weaken Vladimir Putin's control over Europe's energy supply. NAM's chief lobbyist, Jay Simmons, told Politico that liquid natural gas LNG exports response would, quote, send a strong signal to the Russian Federation and our NATO allies, our trading partners in the rest of the world, that energy exports matter and are a critical tool of American foreign policy. What he did not mention is that ExxonMobil is a leading member of his trade association and that Exxon has extensive ties to Russian gas giants, including a partnership with them to develop natural gas in the United States and around the world. So the prime advocacy, so first he says, well, I don't think sanctions on anybody is the answer. So right off the bat, substantively, no pressure on Russian energy industry, no pressure on Russian oligarchs. Then turns around and says, the real way to undermine Russian control of the natural gas sector is to open up our natural gas sector, push exports, which in addition to all of the horrific environmental implications to that, will, well, benefit Exxon, who I lobby for, and then benefit some of Exxon's main partners, which are Russian state-owned natural energy companies. Just disgusting. Unbelievable.